Hey guys, so we wanted to make this video and take some time to explain why we're actually moving away from third-party management and vertically integrating with management in-house, and kind of what our plan is and our hopes to be successful at that and what we're doing to kind of set ourselves up for that. Now first, I just want to start with a little disclaimer that getting into real estate, buying rentals, really isn't that difficult in the current debt market that we're in. And the problem is it's not super flashy to talk about operations, but that is really where you make your money in real estate, and not too many people talk about it because it's just kind of boring. So first up, why are we moving away from the company that currently manages our rentals? And the reality is no one cares as much about your properties as you do as the owner. And so in times, we just found that things started to get neglected, properties weren't staying in the condition that they should be. And ultimately we're experiencing pretty big churn in our portfolio where partially due to the leasing and management fee structure, we started to notice that they weren't really incentivized to place great tenants that were gonna stay long-term because they really made a lot of money on their placement fee. And although, maybe their leasing agents and property managers weren't incentivized that way, the way the fee structure was set up really didn't align with kind of what we want. And really what that is long-term tenants that stay and pay. And so when you have a vacancy every year, the cost of that turn plus the month of vacancy, it really just starts to add up. And when you kind of break down the numbers, the money that you're gonna make is on the second year and the third year and the fourth year with those incremental renewals. And when you keep facing 12-month occupancy and then a month vacancy, even in some cases longer than that, we really started to see the financials, not working out for us as the owner, and feel that we can do better when we have kind of the management component right under us and with that vertical integrated component. Now, when you're first starting in real estate and you have a couple properties, it's definitely difficult to justify trying to hire a team and manage properties yourself because you just can't really support it. The revenue that your properties are generating wouldn't pay for those people. And as we've scaled, we've always been very focused on the acquisitions. And now that we've gotten to a point where our core portfolio is right around 100 units, we can support some of those staff members so that we're not involved necessarily with the day-to-day operations on the management side. Now I want to break down some of the issues that we are having with the third-party management company, and then some of the ways that we hope to kind of mitigate those once it's our responsibility. So first up, vacancy. And that kind of stems back to what I was talking about providing a great resident experience to just reduce your general churn of units in general. And so when we place residents, we want to be super on top of the maintenance. And that is actually one of the biggest reasons that people leave is poor communication, poor handling of maintenance. Things drag on forever, or management companies don't get them taken care of at all, which then leads to someone moving out because they want to live in a place that's cared for, where the ownership and management team is actually taking care of the unit and treating it like a place that these people are living. It's not just a moneymaker, but a home for these people. And so it's important to stay on top of the maintenance so that it in turn is going to be more effective when you're going to do lease renewals to bump up the rent versus pushing someone out because they've had a poor experience. And maintenance is really a big component of that. Now, vacancy is obviously going to occur, but specifically one of the other issues that we were running into is the actual time from the time that the unit goes vacant, but then work starts, work's ready, are completed, ready for a punch out, and then the punch out's completed, the unit's cleaned, it's marketed, we've got an applicant, and we're moving someone in. And we found that process was really dragging out, and the turn costs add up just from the vacancy of the unit itself, but also the cost, the inefficiency to kind of coordinate with vendors accordingly. And that's something that we really think we'll be able to improve the timeline on by just having a good system, vendors lined up, and a better leasing process altogether. Now, it's hard to talk about how creating and providing a great resident experience is actually going to yield us as the property owners, but now also the property management company owners, a better return on our investment. But again, just going back to knowing that if a resident only stays for 1 year, we're really not going to make money on that unit. When you take, hey, this was the net profit for the year, then back out the cost to turn the unit along with the 30-day vacancy and the placement fee to the management company, it pretty much wipes out all of the profit. And so providing a great resident experience is going to be key for us. And again, that ties into communication, maintenance coordination, and some of those factors that we're going to be interacting with the residents the most on. Now, to share some of the technology that we plan plan to utilize to improve some of these operations. First up is going to be our core management software, which is AppFolio. That's where the tenants are actually going to go and pay rent, and we're going to offer plenty of different payment options there to make it as convenient as possible. Number two, more in the leasing side, and again, just getting maximum eyes on our vacant units, and then also kind of coordinating that leasing showing process. We're going to be using Tenant Turner there, which integrates directly with AppFolio so that we can kind of see, where those viewings are coming from, where our applications are coming from, and so on. Another process oriented software that we'll be using on the maintenance side is Property Meld, and that's going to be really good to kind of troubleshoot some of the issues when a resident submits a work order to begin with, or a problem in the unit. And then from there, it's got a very clean functionality to actually schedule with our vendors so that we can get those issues taken care of as fast as possible. It also gives us a lot of performance indicators around the satisfaction of the residents, the vendors, and also how fast we're handling those things, how much communication we're utilizing, and then also the automations that are built into that process so we can keep our team, focusing on higher level tasks and interjecting into the process as needed. And again, stemming back into a great resident experience, timely, issues being solved on the maintenance side so that we have people that want to continue to rent from us and not move out after a year because their stove doesn't work and we never did anything about it. A couple other ancillary softwares that we'll be using. One is Lead Simple. It's a very good process software, and that's where it's, high-end checklist if you want to look at it that way, but that's where our team members will kind of reference for any order of operations or process a lot of redundant tasks within the management company, and that's going to ensure that we're not missing things and letting things fall through the cracks. I will be using, Gmail for kind of email communications. We'll be using RingCentral with a phone tree set up so that we can have one main number that gets routed accordingly. Google My Business profile reviews are going to be important there for us to kind of stand out in the community so that more people want to rent from us. And lastly, Airtable, which is going to be more of like a high-end spreadsheet that's going to give us some search functionalities to store data, property specific, tenant specific, things that we couldn't otherwise capture inside of AppFolio or any of the other systems that we've talked about. And that way we'll be able to have kind of a database, and specific of that would be, hey, we've got X vacant properties, who's going to be mowing these single families this month, if it otherwise would have been the resident's responsibility. And so there's some search functions that, a typical Excel or Google spreadsheet wouldn't offer, and some search functionalities, and it's a free tool to use with under 10 users. So we're actually going to charge our owner entities fee from our management company. We're still going to charge a leasing and renewal fee, and then we'll also do vendor markup fees for extensive projects or unit turns that exceed a certain dollar amount. And so we are going to treat this management company like a third-party entity so that if we ever offer this as a selective service to other owners down the road, we don't have to completely change our systems because we've been treating ourselves like a separate entity owner all along. Now, one thing we really noticed in property management is the bar seems to be incredibly low for the resident experience. And specifically to dive into this, when you look at companies that have, say, a subscription model where you pay $10 a month, $120 a year, and the customer service is great, communication is great, you get all of this fulfillment, and let's say you only stay signed up for 5 years, and let's just round down to $100 times the 5 years, that's a $500 lifetime value that you had as a client to that company, and the experience was great. And when you look at renting a property, let's say the rent is $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year times 5 years is $60,000 was the lifetime value of that resident, and they get treated like crap. And that's just something that we've noticed across the board, is the bar is really low for providing that experience. And so by going kind of tech heavy on the entry, we think that we're going to be able to improve that by having great communication with our residents, taking care of maintenance in an extremely efficient manner, and really staying on top of the things that we should be doing, but the industry just sets a very low bar for. Now, lastly, I just want to hit on branding and why we feel that's so important. We operate in a market of about 50,000 people, secondary market of Columbus, Ohio. And so, reputation in a smaller town really does matter. And that's part of the reason that, we want to own these properties for the next 30 years. And so to make an extra couple bucks today for a bad reputation for the next 20 years, 30 years, just isn't worth it for us. And so we are going to kind of sacrifice maybe a little bit of the financial reward or upside that we'd see now by, maybe backing off on a little bit of our rent amounts or how hard we push on ancillary fees and some of those aspects of our business so that we can A, provide that great experience, B, work with some high quality vendors vendors that maybe cost a little bit more, but by working with them, again, it kind of shows the residents that we really care about our properties. We're not just hiring the cheapest guy to get in there and, you know, put duct tape on a leaking valve. So that's something that, you know, we're thinking a lot about. We've got our Google business profile set up. We're going to go heavy on the reviews there. We want to really stand out in the community as not only this company that people want to rent from, but vendors want to work for us because we pay them, we treat them well, and overall, you know, the good reputation precedes us. And we think that's super important, should be important for any business you're in, but specifically being in a smaller community, we think it's, you know, extra valuable to have that good reputation.